In today's video, we're gonna try to capture the magnificence of Notre Dame de Paris with our trusted a6400, but the only inconvenience is we only have a table tripod and a very slow lens, meaning it only opens to f4. Let's try that. Hey guys, this is your average a6400 shooter, Philip here. One of the big problem with night photography is that you need expensive lenses. Lenses that cost sometimes upward of $1,000. They bring a lot of light inside. And today I only have two lenses, which will be the 10 to 18 f4 and the second will be the 18 to 105 f4. Two great all-around lenses if you have a good starting kit. However, like we say, they are quite slow. It's the worst case scenario for them to shoot at night, but we're gonna still try. So the first shot will be straight in the middle of the plaza, where we were gonna try to take a very wide angle and make the cathedral look dramatic. And don't hesitate to leave any comment about your experiences in shooting architectures at night. We have a very silly setup here, just with a tabletop and shooting straight to look forward to the cathedral. So let's try to succeed this shot and have the longest exposure possible, the lowest ISO possible, meaning that we want to have very low sensibility. So we're gonna try to have ISO 400, close to f8 actually, and try to have a very long exposure of, let's say, 1.3 seconds on this tabletop. And see what happens. After the first try, you can see the image is like way sharper. But clearly, as the beginner that I am, looks like there's some shit on my lens, so it's quite fucked up. One quick tip I just realized as I was taking my photos is it's super important to actually set up a timer before you start shooting. Why is that, you will ask? As my hands are pressing the shutter button, it makes micro vibrations actually impact the photo and make them not as clear as they can be. So, little tip I'm just learning right now, night photography, before pressing the shutter, set up the timer to 3 or 5 seconds to make sure the camera is perfectly still as it takes and processes the image. Now let's try to find an interesting second angle so we can use our telephoto lens. Because of the fire that took place, it's quite hard to find a nice angle to look at Notre Dame without all the construction. That makes us think a little bit more creatively, so we're gonna take it from the side and try to get as much detail as possible from those columns right here. Okay, now we have mounted on the Sony a6400 the 18 to 105 f4. It's a great travel lens, that's why I actually got it. So I can have just one lens for most of the use cases I would need. As you can imagine, it's quite awkward to take a video as like people in Paris were like kissing and everything. It was a little bit awkward, but it's okay. We make it work. So the lens is quite big. However, when you zoom in and out, then it doesn't extend, which means it always keep its size regardless of the length of the zoom, which is like amazing. So because it was a very tight spot, and this is why you really want a 6400, because it's so rugged, you can put this camera through hell and it will get out of it like a freaking beauty. So I put it in a very strange place by a window so I can get some weird angles. And now let's go back home and see the result and the editing. Okay guys, now we are back in the studio, quote unquote, my room, and let's see on the computer what we got. So for this experiment, we're gonna use Luminar AI, which is a cheaper version of Adobe Lightroom. As I open the system, I'm gonna import an entire folder, and we get the main pictures that have been taken, all 19 of them. So the very first thing that we see on the screen is indeed that, as I was saying when we were outside, it's super important to make sure that you actually don't touch at all, like at all, the picture, because we can see here the picture is completely blurry, and a little bit thing here where I was getting my game together, but we're still not there. And I think that a couple of pictures down the line, yes, now we get into that goody sharpness. And not only we get into the sharpness, and as I zoom in a little bit more, we see definitely that the Sony a6400 has a little bit of limitation with megapixel when we are plus 600%. But at plus 200%, we see that the details are indeed quite sharp. If we zoom in on this one, we actually see the details on the windows, even if things are a bit grainier. And I was indeed shooting at ISO 400. So normally the grain should not have been that bad, but it actually is. Let's see a picture with a little bit more light. And if we zoom in into our night photography element, now we do see at 400% that we have quite interesting details. We actually see all the details on the stone, on the gargoyles, and really me not being an expert at all, if we take this picture and we do a little bit of editing and we were to use one of the templates of Luminar AI, and let's say Frosty, that's pretty cool actually, or City Thrills, or the black and white, Electric City, no, that's not cool. But I would say between Frosty and City Thrills, right? And we tone down a little bit the effect. Okay, and then we go into the edit. And what I love about this is, if you are a strict beginner like me, it does all the photoshopping for you, so you actually don't have to. And as we were saying, I have some dirt on my sensor, looks like it. So it's very easy for me to go and shoop, erase that and make my picture clear again and erase it. Everything is perfectly clear. Right here as well, I got a little spot. Everything is clear now. So let's have a look at other AI functionality. When we look at structure, it's to boost the actual sharpness, right? And we see if we zoom in, and even my MacBook, which is a M1, is struggling a little bit to process the detail because the image is so sharp, right? It's actually giving quite interesting details. My conclusion, if you want to do Instagram photos and publish this therefore thereafter on Instagram, no problem at all. If you want to do prints, it might not be the right place or the right camera, and you might need a bigger sensor or a bigger resolution camera. But definitely, if we take a look at this picture as well, we see that we do have quite an interesting amount of details, and it's pretty good for night photography if you want to use it for that. I hope this video was useful for you guys to make a decision of if yes or no the Sony a6400 with a very slow lens, which was the 10 to 18, as well as the 18 to 105 millimeters, both f4, are the right fit for you as an average 6400 shooter. And see you on the next video.